I don't think audio restoration as a career has a near-term end to it. There's 100 years of sound film, almost 100 years of sound film. While most of the major motion pictures, Hollywood pictures, have been addressed, there's still a lot of gems that need to be restored and need attention. We started in the music industry, and we were doing restoration for re-releases for the CD industry. I originally got my start working for a company called Sonic Solutions, and they developed a system called the No Noise system. I worked for them for about 4 years as their production manager. Then when they stopped doing their service, I became their product manager, and after a couple of years decided I preferred working on the audio rather than training people and going around and giving demos. But that was fun too. And so that's when I decided to start Audio Mechanics. People coming into the field today, I don't see a lot who are specifically looking for sound restoration and specifically mastering. Mastering, it's a very, very technical way of listening, and sound restoration, I think in some ways gets even more technical and more myopic and requires a great deal of patience. Less so these days, but in the early days, taking out pops and clicks from a record was one at a time. The software has improved tremendously, and so it is getting easier. But it still requires patience, and it requires a lot of experience to fine-tune your ears. There's listening aesthetically, and then there's listening technically. So if someone wants to listen better technically, the way I was taught when I was working at Sonic Solutions, I had the fortune of working side by side with world-class mastering engineers. And I'll never forget, I was working on a Beatles recording, and we're doing some noise reduction tests, and the mastering engineer tells me the hiss is pumping. It's going up and down from the processing, and you can hear it around 3K. I said, I don't know what that means. I don't know how to listen that way. So he said, all right, let's just listen through the whole song, and I want you to only focus on the hi-hat. Ignore everything else. And I did that, and by the end of the song, I could hear the hiss pumping. If a student wants to start learning how to listen technically, the best thing to do is to associate instruments with frequencies, and there's charts on the internet that you can do that, and then just try to focus on those instruments. And then at a certain point, you're able to sort of put that all together, and instead of hearing it as, oh, the hi-hat's too loud, which probably isn't the case, it's probably because it was, in the case of the Beatles, it was mixed very well to perfection, and now we're talking about frequency response. It's probably more that the frequency response of the recording is biased towards those higher frequencies. The resolution of your hearing is very coarse in the beginning, so if you're playing around with equalization and you think it needs, let's say, 6 decibels of high frequency adjustment, it probably only needs 2. And as you listen more and more, that coarse resolution of your hearing in decibels and frequencies begins to get finer and finer until you can more easily match your aesthetic sense of what something should sound like with the pots and knobs and tools that you're using. So when we work on a new project, the aesthetics of how it should sound are usually guided by the era of the film. Each era of film has its own sound qualities.
Guess what I'll be doing at 6 o'clock tonight? Standing before a minister of the gospel with a woman's hand in mine, the daughter of a justice of the United States Supreme Court, a famous liberal. The girl's even good to look at.
And had its own sound in the theaters based on the recording technology, the playback technology, the speakers and amplifiers in the day. So knowing how the film sounded when it was released.
As a rule, men leave their wives because they don't love them, but I must leave you because I do. Oh, you won't object once you know the kind of man you married.
We want it to sound like a brand new print of the film as it sounded to the audience when it was released.
Hello?
Oh, Mary. Mary, this is Charles.
You can't get that perfectly because modern equipment sounds so much different than the older equipment, but you can approach it very well and still make it have those qualities and sound very good. And in most cases, you're able to reveal even a little bit more detail than probably what they heard because the acoustic environment of today's systems are much better. The storage conditions are the most important factor when you're dealing with analog media and digital media for that matter. Moisture is bad, heat is bad. Generally speaking, if you can be at a relative humidity of 50%, that's really gonna help your media last longer. And if it's old enough, if it's more than 20 years old, let's say, and it's important to you, then find a way to get it on digital and do digital storage as well. There's a lot of great tools now for doing noise reduction, and they're getting cheaper, easier to use. But just like any craft, you have the tools and then you have the people that use them, and there is a difference. You hand the same set of tools to two carpenters, you're going to get two different results. And it's the same in sound. You hand the same tools to two different sound engineers, you're going to get two different results, and it's based on experience mostly. The dream has always been to just have some software, some tools that can do it all for you. Just tell the difference between the signal and the noise. It's not out there yet, but it's getting there. Artificial intelligence, machine learning is already seeing a place in sound restoration and the tools that I use. The machine learning is used to do this source separation stuff, to be able to tell what's dialogue versus not dialogue in a recording. And it's getting very good. It just needs more training. If someone loves audio and wants to participate in its preservation and restoration, there's a couple things I would recommend. I think it's a good idea to get a formal education now the programs are available. Because audio has such a vast history, going all the way back to early sound, there's wax cylinders, there's records, there's optical sound on film. There's a lot to learn, just in formats alone. So I think getting that formal education, finding a place that can teach you those things is important. Doing an internship is also a great way to do it too, though. There's nothing like going to a facility that does this on a day-to-day basis and just absorbing the information around you. Hi, my name is John Polito. I'm with Audio Mechanics in Burbank, California. We specialize in sound preservation, sound restoration, mastering, and mixing.